Good evening and welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, Senate threatens to boycott sittings over delayed rerun election in Rivers State, gives INEC December 10th deadline to conduct the poll. Doctors in Bayelsa State take to the streets in protest over unpaid salaries as medical workers at Irua Specialist Teaching Hospital, Edo State, declare industrial action. Federal government approves provincial licenses for 8 new universities in the country. And South African government releases reports indicting it of undue influence in political appointments as citizens demand the sacking of President Jacob Zuma.
And on business news tonight, Central Bank of Nigeria defends its stance on flexible foreign exchange policy in the financial system.
And on sports news tonight, Super Eagles coach Kenneth Raw calls up Daniel Pay to replace injured Carly Kime ahead of next week's 2018 World Cup qualifier against Algeria.
I'm Gloria Umezuke, and from Abuja, the Federal High Court refuses to order the forfeiture of the $15.5 million found in the accounts of companies belonging to Waripamoto Dafa, a former aide to ex-president Goodluck Jonathan.
We begin tonight with marching orders from the Nigeria's upper legislative chamber to the Independent National Electoral Commission. The Senate today threatened to suspend their sittings if the INEC fails to conduct the rerun senatorial election in Rivers State by December 10th. Moving a motion on the issue, the Deputy Senate President, Ike Kweremadu, said that INEC is breaching the Electoral Act by failing to conduct the rerun poll. Our correspondent, Linda Kigbe, reports.
There are no federal lawmakers representing Rivers State in the Senate. The Senatorial, House of Representatives and State House of Assembly elections organized by electoral body INEC in Rivers State were inconclusive. This is a sore point for some of these lawmakers who say INEC is denying people from Rivers State representation in the Senate.
We also observe that the failure of INEC to conduct the rerun elections in Rivers State within the time frame ordered by the respective election petition tribunals and the courts is in breach of the Electoral Act and Section 76 of the 1999 Constitution, thus endangering the nation's democracy.
You can imagine today we are about to discuss PIB without any member from Rivers State.
A single resolution was put forward and passed.
Those in favor of the prayer call on the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC to conduct all outstanding elections in Rivers State not later than 10th of December, on failing which the Senate will suspend planning to such a time the said elections are held. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
These lawmakers also continued with the process of amending the act, setting up electoral body INEC. According to the chairman, Senate Committee on INEC, 6 amendments are being sought, one of which is the controversial issue of the replacement of a candidate at an election who dies between commencement of polls and declaration of the result of the election. This situation created an impasse in the Kogi governorship election. However, lawmakers were sharply divided over this amendment.
The lacuna being amended here in the law, in the electoral law, is for someone who dies before the election is concluded. And if that happens, then the party should have the responsibility to feed in a candidate that may continue with the first running mate or not.
The intendment of having somebody nominated for an executive position is that you cannot validly be nominated without a running mate. And if you cannot be validly nominated without a running mate, how could you, in the unfortunate circumstance that there's a demise, then the same running mate, who you cannot validly be nominated without, now becomes nobody in the system. No?
The Senate President, however, asked the Committee on INEC to go back and do more work on this particular amendment because of its controversial and delicate nature. Linda Akibi, Channels Television News.
Staying with the Senate, the Petroleum Industry Bill has passed a second reading in the upper legislative chamber. The PIB is the first of the five-part bill which looks at governance and institutional framework for the petroleum industry. The sponsor of the bill, Senator Omotayo Alashoadura, says the bill was split into five parts to avoid the controversies which affected its passage in previous assemblies when it was presented in bulk form. The document was first presented to the National Assembly in 2008 as executive bill by the late President Umaru Yar'Adua.
Exactly a week ago, senators received a letter from President Muhammadu Buhari requesting approval to borrow the sum of $29.9 billion to execute key infrastructural projects across the country between 2016 and 2018. In the letter, President Buhari had explained that the external borrowing plan would be targeted at projects which cut across all sectors, with special emphasis on infrastructure, agriculture, health, education, water supply, growth, and employment generation. At the resumption of plenary this week, the Senate leader, Senator Alun Dume, moved a motion for the consideration of the request, and it was subsequently seconded.
Mr. President, with your permission, I wish to move that the request be referred to the relevant committee for further legislative action. I so move.
Senate President Bukola Saraki then puts the motion to a vote.
Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. Let me put the question again. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The nays have it.
With that ruling, the motion was defeated. Speaking afterwards, the majority leader explains why the lawmakers voted against considering the president's request.
The presentation from Mr. President was not complete. There wasn't an attachment that is required for consideration. So we felt that taking it to the committee level without members, citing the details of the borrowing plans. The details of the borrowing plan is absent. That is one of the major reasons.
The Senate leader has promised to meet with the relevant members of the executive to discuss the details and do a proper presentation to the Senate at a later date. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives is yet to consider the president's request. The House had earlier called off the consideration, which was to take place on Thursday last week. There are indications that it may not be considered this week as well.
Happened earlier today. Members of the Islamic Movement of Nigeria who took to the streets of Abuja today protesting alleged detention of their leader, Ibrahim El-Zakzaky. The protesters who gathered at the Federal Secretariat were dispersed by security operatives. They claim their leader has been in detention since December 2015, when some of his followers clashed with military officers in Zaria, Kaduna State. They're asking the government to allow his family and lawyers have access to him. Meanwhile, resident doctors at the Federal Medical Center in Yenagoa, the Bayelsa State capital, have threatened to withdraw their services if the state government fails to pay their salary arrears. The doctors took to their protests around the hospital, demanding their September and October salaries, as well as the 48% deducted from their February to May 2016 salaries.
Resident doctors of the Federal Medical Center, Yenagoa, in a peaceful protest. They're marching to the administrative block of the hospital to let management in on the grievances. They're frustrated by the non-payment of the salaries. There's a month now.
From February till May this year, we are being owed 52% of our salaries per month. That's for 4 months. And September now, we have not been paid salary. October just finished, we have not been paid October salary. This is the only federal tertiary hospital
in Bayelsa State and is catering for people of Bayelsa and environs. We don't want to hurriedly rush to withdrawing of services, but if by a certain point we are not paid, precisely if by 15th of November we are not paid, we are going to withdraw our services completely.
The stress is much on us.
Dr. Anebi Yemisi, like these other doctors, has been receiving only 50% of her salary since February. She says this hasn't been fun considering current economic realities.
You are working on an empty stomach. You are thinking about how you are going to feed your family, how you are going to pay rent, pay school fees, fuel your car, and all that. So it's a lot of stress. You are thinking so much, you are not concentrating on your patients.
Meanwhile, the chief medical director appreciates the patience of the doctors and can only plead for more time and understanding by the aggrieved personnel.
The federal government has been doing everything possible to ensure that payments are being made. We have been paid some months are still outstanding. By the time we got to the month of September, based on what was allocated for us, it's not enough to carry, and it's not only us.
The CMD says it cannot state when the salaries will be paid. Against the backdrop of dwindling allocation from the federal government, this will no doubt make the November 15th deadline a day to look forward to.
It's been a similar situation in Edo State, where health workers at the Yenagoa Specialist Teaching Hospital have embarked on an indefinite strike action over unpaid salaries. Dr. Fidelis Ogobo, who spoke on behalf of the union, explained that the industrial action is the only alternative for health workers under the present economic recession.
Health workers at the Yenagoa Specialist Teaching Hospital, Yenagoa, Edo State, convened for this emergency session with the various union leaders in the institution in attendance. The chairman of the Senior Staff Association, Dr. Fidelis Ogobo, is the first to speak. He underlines some of the issues on ground.
Our salary for the month of September, the month of October has not been paid. And we are not able, and we cannot continue to serve government with empty stomach.
Some other union leaders take turns in addressing the gathering.
Promotion areas, we did not get it. 2012, half was paid. 14, 15, 16 now, nothing given to us.
I pray that the federal government will give us a listening ear and do something about our budget. The budget that is deficit year in, year out. That should come to an end.
After deliberations, a decision is reached, an indefinite strike action until the outstanding wages are settled.
I declare from now henceforth, there will be a strike action in Yenagoa Specialist Teaching Hospital.
The pronouncement is not binding on doctors and nurses in the facility. The president of the Association of Resident Doctors, Dr. Emmanuel Osagede, expresses sympathy for the striking workers.
As for doctors, the resident doctors, which is my association, we are not on industrial action yet, but that does not mean that we are not in solidarity with them to tell the federal government to bring this money to actually pay everybody. I think what they are doing is in order, because when people can no longer come to work, I don't know what you expect them to do at this condition.
Reacting to the situation, the Chief Medical Director of Yenagoa Specialist Teaching Hospital, Dr. Stephen Sokobeni, in a telephone conversation says the striking unionists are overreacting. He confirms the release of funds by the federal government, which would be used to clear the outstanding remunerations. The Yenagoa Specialist Teaching Hospital remains open to the public in spite of the industrial action embarked upon by a section of its workforce.
In part two, after the break, NUC challenges Nigerian universities to think outside the box to be ranked among the best in the world. Please join us again.